City of Stevens Point Board of Park Commissioners meeting, recorded April 5, 2023.
All right, it is now 6:30, and I will officially call Commissioner O'Connick the meeting of the April 5th Parks Commission meeting to order. Director Kramer, would you mind calling the roll, please?
Breckman? Here. Badesky?
Here.
Alder Kiemer?
Here.
McDonald?
Here.
O'Connick? Here. Shabilsky said he's going to be a few minutes late. Alder Shore is not here. Sorensen?
Here.
Wynn?
Here.
And Alder Zerzua?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan. Before we jump into the meat of the agenda, I do want to read something, and I appreciate Director Kramer putting this together in recognition of a dear member of the committee that we lost recently. So earlier this year, we lost a beloved friend and instrumental member of our Parks Commission family, Sue Hall. Sue was a member of the Park Commission for over 18 years, and her positive spirit uplifted every meeting she attended. No matter what was going on, Sue greeted everyone with a huge smile and made everyone feel important and welcome in her presence. In addition to her time on the Parks Commission, Sue was instrumental in the construction of the Piffner Park bandshell, the creation of the dog park, the acquisition and creation of the Erickson Natural Area, and the creation of the pollinator habitat in Kosciuszko Park through her longtime membership with the Audubon Society. Sue and her husband Kent were also solely responsible for this city's Bird City USA designation. These are just a few of the highlights of the incredibly long list of volunteerism and contributions Sue made to our park system, our environment, and our community. City staff, members of the Parks Commission, and other volunteers have been working in the background on a tribute for Sue Hall. It will take some time to get everything finalized, but the group is working through initial details for an opportunity to expand a park parcel in the city's east side, and will seek approval to name it in Sue's honor. We're currently seeking feedback from the family and determining the best approval route before bringing it before the Parks Commission for consideration. If anyone is interested, both either in this room or watching tonight, or as you see the recording, please reach out to Director Kramer with questions or interest in contributing. So I guess I'll open it up to the group if anybody else wants to share memories of Sue and the work that she did, or just the time she had on this board. If anybody wants to join in, please do.
Well, there are several of us that served for those 18 years with Sue, and our director was right. She always came in with a smile and made everybody feel like they were important and had something to offer to the committee. So she is going to be missed. She is missed already. And thank you for those kind words about her.
Thanks, Liz. Anybody else care to share some comments?
Yeah, I know. Even in my short time, I think Sue was the first one that called me when I got hired too, and said that she'd show me around and stuff. She was always so nice. They treated you like family. So we're gonna miss her for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think she's worthy of recognition by this board and the Parks Department in town. That she's made a big contribution in the city. So
I agree.
Well, thank you, everybody. And again, we really are saddened to lose such a wonderful member of this committee and committed to the green space, the wildlife, and the parks of the city of Stevens Point. So thank you. So we'll move down to agenda item number 2, which is approval of the December 7th, 2002 meeting minutes.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Motion by O'Connick, second by McDonald to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That was not an opposition. All right. Thank you very much. The minutes are approved. Number 3, we're really excited. Presentation of the Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan by Rettler. Russ Rettler, thank you for joining us again, and please take it away.
Our pleasure. Well, on behalf of Rettler Corporation, I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to be here tonight. We're extremely happy to celebrate the completion of our Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan. We greatly appreciate all the opportunities that we have here to work in our local community. It's extremely exciting to see where our parks have come in the last couple of years, the energy surrounding our parks throughout the city of Wisconsin, and we're very proud and humbled to be part of a lot of these really exciting planning processes. So thank you for including us. Like I said, we're here to celebrate the completion of the Corp, give you guys a brief summary of the process of what we had done as part of that process. We had begun the Corp planning process back in March 23rd of 2022. So it's been a long process, but a very comprehensive process looking at all your parks. So again, thank you for having us. The comprehensive outdoor recreational plan is developed based on your mission statement and in accordance with your mission statement. And what that is for the city of Stevens Point is our mission of the Stevens Point Parks, Recreation and Forestry Department is to improve the quality of life for residents. So our corp was developed in accordance with that mission statement. I think it's important to touch a little bit on parks and open space in our community. Now more than ever, providing passive and active outdoor recreation opportunities for people in our community is really important. I think we saw in COVID, that was a perfect example of when our interior spaces become challenging based on things happening, outdoor spaces become very, very important. I think as we look at culture in our community these days, it's very important to get not only the younger people, but the different demographic age range of folks in our community out and in those spaces to reconnect with nature and be involved in passive and active outdoor recreation. So parks, public open space, and recreation facilities are increasingly important because they influence community image and morale, promote health, welfare, and safety, provide leisure time opportunities, contribute to social benefits, interaction, and community involvement. They protect and celebrate community history, preserve natural resources and our connection to nature, contribute to effective stormwater management, and benefit the community economically. So by providing good planning, services as part of this, we can make sure our planning is done in an efficient and logical manner. So what is a comprehensive outdoor recreation plan? I think, the big thing is it's a big document, right? But it's a formal document designed to assist communities in planning and developing parks in open space for the future. It's obviously addressing needs as part of our growing community here in Stevens Point, and really assists as we look at the capital improvement planning for both federal and state funding here for improvements in the future. The Corp establishes park-related goals and objectives, updates demographic information about the city, inventories our existing park and recreation facilities, analyzes parkland and recreation needs, and then customizes recommendations by incorporating input from our community. Integrates those recommendations into a capital improvements plan in which each project is described and given a priority for completion. It identifies a list of potential funding programs and grant opportunities, and approval is required through our city government to apply for state and federal grants. So, as part of the Corp book, it's broken down into 8 different sections, and then in appendices, section 1 includes an introduction of what the document is. Section 2 includes a community description. Section 3 is our parkland inventory. Section 4 would be the parkland analysis. Section 5 includes our needs assessment. Section 6 includes recommendations. 7 includes implementation strategies. And then 8 is our references, and the appendices follow that. So let's talk a little bit about section 1 and 2 for an introduction to the Corp and the community description. The introduction really looks at the plan and purpose of the document, includes our mission statement, and then talks a little bit about some of the fun things that we have going on more recently with past planning and current accomplishments that we've had. And then it also addresses the planning process that we went through as part of developing the document. The community description is really addressing the history and context of Stevens Point, looks a little bit at our demographics, the physical and environmental considerations, and then the current land use plan that the city has for zoning. So section 3 is our parkland inventory, and really what this is developed based on your current classification system. So we sat down with Director Kramer and addressed exactly what types of parks we have in the city of Stevens Point, identifying those based on NRPA standards. We broke those into mini parks, neighborhood parks, community parks, special use parks, and natural area parks. And really what these are developed based on is size, and obviously we break that down into the service area that they support as part of the parks as well. So this classification system, again, is consistent with all the NRPA standards that are in place. Section 3 is our parkland inventory, and really what you're seeing here is based on all the different types of parks through our community. This is a good graphic showing you the parks classified by color and those locations of all the parks throughout the city of Stevens Point. Another part of the Parkland inventory is the matrix that you'll see here. It's hard to see up on the screen, but really what we do is we break down each individual park again by the type of park, and then identify in the matrix all of the different amenities that are included as part of each one of those parks. So that gives you a really good idea of all the opportunities that you have at each different location. Also, as part of the inventory process, we went through and did a site visit to each one of your parks. You'll see photo documentation of the characteristics of each park as part of each of these documents. We identify the classification, the location and address of the park, the size of the park. We clarified all the parcels as part of this process to understand exactly which parcels are included as part of each one of your parks. And then the amenities, again, are broken down for each one of your parks as well. As part of the parkland analysis process, section 4, we went through 36 city-owned NRPA classified park sites. We had 13 neighborhood parks, 6 community parks, 9 special use parks, and 8 natural park areas. There's 12 undeveloped parkland properties as part of your parks, and then 5 park-owned assets as part of the parks as well. The approach that we take to our analysis is all based on the NRPA acreage standards, also taking into account the service area evaluation as part of the NRPA, the suggested recreational standards comparison, and then our very important process of community input. So really what you'll see, and I think what's important to address here as part of that table down at the bottom, is that the NRPA has standards for the area or park acreage that you should have per every 1,000 individuals in our community. And really what we found out here as part of that is that neighborhood parks, community parks, special use parks, natural parks, all of those areas, you guys are above the standards for the NRPA requirements. As we look at the overall acreage, we're doing very, very well in our community right now with the number of people we have and the parkland that we have available for those people to recreate. So that's a very good positive thing as part of the study. So, Section 5, talk a little bit about the needs assessment. As part of that process, we look at the online survey where we went out to both the public and user groups as part of an online survey. I'm happy to say that as part of the public input survey, we received, actually it's 1,266 responses. That's the most that we've ever received as part of any comprehensive plan that we've done. So kudos to our community and all their interest in the parks that we have. We had a public input meeting, a user group input meeting, and a staff input meeting on June 7th. Combined all those together. All good things from the public and the user groups. And I thought it was really great to meet with staff because I think the people that are maintaining your parks on a daily basis really had a lot of great things to add. They're there more than a lot of us and have a really great idea of what the opportunities and challenges are at the parks. So the selected input highlights, I think it's important to touch on a few things that came out as part of the survey. Bucole Park is our most used park, followed by Piffner, Iverson, Sculpture, Mead, and Gerke. 88 to 89% of the people are satisfied or very satisfied with the park system, which is great. The top 5 highest ranked park amenities include our trails, nature reserve area, park signage, art exhibits, and parking lots. The most, and this is important, the most requested amenities to add to our park system would be an aquatic facility or a splash pad. So let's keep that in mind. More restrooms, and surprise, surprise, more pickleball courts. So that's kind of a few of the key items that people are looking to add. And congratulations to our Parks Department. A third of the comments, of the general comments, were compliments to our Parks Department and that they're doing a great job. So graphics below show some of the tables I put together showing the satisfaction for the pool area, how many days people go to Riverfront, and satisfaction of overall visits to the parks. So all of that is data that's put together as part of the document. Section 6 and 7 include our recommendations and implementation strategies. So we put together general and specific recommendations for the parks based on our input from staff, public, and then obviously the director, Mr. Kramer, had a lot of good input as well as part of the recommendations. What you're seeing also below on the left-hand corner would be a conceptual plan. We put together a conceptual plan for each one of your parks, identifying, based on the recommendations, spatial allocations for those improvements at each park site. In the upper right, you'll see some of the different funding strategies that we address as part of the Corp planning process, and the different entities that funding is available through. And then the lower right is our capital improvement schedule. So once we address the items that we would like to include as part of the Corp or as part of improvements to our parks, we break those down, those improvements for each park, down into years 0 through 4, years 5 through 10, and then years 11 on, to really address and prioritize when projects would happen, but also addressing general capital improvement budgets as part of that. So sections 8 and 9 are references and appendices. So it's part of the appendix. References are pretty standard. We understand what those are, but the appendix also includes aerial overlays of each park, identifying the boundary of the park. We also include things like current master plans that may be in the works or current projects that are underway. So you'll see the Blue Cove Park beach improvement area, and then also the Plover River crossing. So those are some of the current plans that we'd be involved in. And then what's also important is we include all the NRPA standards for reference as well. So with that, I'd like to thank you guys again for the opportunity to assist our local community. It's been great, and we look forward to continuing to serve you, but we'll open it up to any questions.
If I recall correctly, because I was one of the people that did take the survey online, but I don't believe there was any way within the survey to indicate whether you were a city resident or not. And I'm just thinking that looking 5 years into the future, when this plan is done again, I think we should really make an effort to have it just come from city residents.
That's a really good point, and I think it would be challenging. It would be challenging based on how we do surveys to limit it to just people from the city of Stevens Point. However, to add a question in there that would ask, are you a resident of the city of Stevens Point, would definitely make that relevant. And I definitely hear what you're saying.
Yeah, if we made it broader and asked, do you reside in Town of Hull,
Yep.
Village of Plover, et cetera, so we can get a sense of how many of these comments are coming from actual residents that are paying the taxes to make these things happen, so.
Understood.
Appreciate that.
Great comment.
One other question I had, Ross, is those NRPA standards, is there any reference to population density when it comes to looking at the amount of parkland? Like looking at how many people are living in a particular area and what the park space is that's available to them?
Could you? She would know. She gets deep into that.
Not really specifically. It's sort of a broad outline standard, and they do put a disclaimer. Communities can customize those because they're different across the country. But that is a good question. We do look at the zoning and kind of looking at where the residences are and the distance between parks, but we don't address a greater density closer to a high-density housing area.
Yeah. The reason I'm asking that is because Stevens Point has been making a real push to develop more housing in the downtown area. We've got the Berkshire, we've got the North Point Yards, I believe they're called, and if you look at the number of downtown business locations where there has been housing developed on the second floor, we've got a huge population increase right in that area.
Density is increasing.
Yeah, the density is, and it's really putting a lot of pressure on, especially on Piffner Park.
Yep.
And so I think that that's something that, although it might not be specifically a part of the park plan, we should be trying to look at the density of the areas when we're looking at park development as well.
Yeah. Servicing those more densely populated areas, absolutely.
Rebecca, I suspect there's going to be more questions about data and things like that. If you wanted to join Ross at the podium, that way we can catch your answers. because I have one for you. I have a question for you. So help me understand the response rate in terms of distribution for the survey. That number struck me as being, and you said, Russ, very high.
Yeah.
Comparatively, what does that number come in at? And really, what was the actual percentage of respondents to people invited to fill out the survey?
So it's been a little bit since it's December, so I can get you more specific. But as I recall, when I look at community responses, it was closer to 3 to 4% for Stevens Point. Some communities are more like 1.5 to maybe 2%, so I would say there's a much higher population. We got a much higher response, but even the rate was higher than usual.
I appreciate that, because that struck me as really high for a community feedback survey.
I think it's good, though,
Out of
because it
Yeah, it
shows
is.
that people are,
Yeah, 1,000.
Absolutely.
interested and very integrated into our park system, so that's good.
Yeah, I think it validates what we know, what we hear, and to have that number show that it's twice an average benchmark number, I think is really encouraging how much people do appreciate the work that the staff does and the amenities that we offer the people of the community.
We have a breakdown of every single survey response as well, so if you guys would like to read, we can share those with you. They're always very interesting, so.
And we go through every single comment and tally them up by category as well, so we have several spreadsheets we'd be happy to share as well.
Yeah. Very detailed.
Other questions? I know Director Kramer has some things to add.
Yeah, I'm going to just add a few things that, so Rattler is very modest in their efforts in terms of how they describe the process. I'll tell you, this is one of the situations where we're really fortunate. They're really the leader in this front, statewide. So when you talk to other communities, a lot of them actually sometimes beg Rattler to bid their projects because of the quality they do. If you look at our document, compared to what we've even had in the past, this one is incredibly thorough.
Yes.
So we didn't mention this in the presentation, but we actually manage 734 acres. And we didn't have that data before this plan. We had actually lots of properties. Luckily, Tom Schrader is still actively engaged when we call upon him. A lot of our previous plan said things like, coolest property or former Harrier property or these names of who we purchased them from. And our staff, we didn't remember who these folks were. So Tom actually came in, we were able to call upon him, and he sat down with us. We went through a lot of the properties and were able to get all the institutional knowledge and get them into parcel numbers. So now we have real data. And that's not typically something that this process would do. So Rattler actually did that, didn't charge us additional. We were really fortunate to be able to have that and to quantify it. We have 564 of actual park acres. The difference is some of our lands, we have recreational amenities on them, but they're not dedicated parkland because basically there's more flexibility should development drive it or something happen with the parcels. So again, that was really quantifiable data. Additionally, if you look at the mapping, their level and quality of laying out conceptual plans, we just can't do that internally as staff. And they went above and beyond for more parks than they would have normally. And that really was just based on their interest in their own community. And I just want to call attention to the fact that those are things we would pay more for in a lot of cases. So not to say that they donated a bunch of stuff, but we really appreciate all their efforts, and staff really appreciates being able to get these things in print. The other things that this document really helps us with is a lot of our new initiatives we're working on. So for example, Bucol Park, we know that we need to do something with that area. We got a ton of feedback about don't make it a concrete jungle, try to make some more natural areas. Let's improve the building. We have a lot of quantifiable data when we go to do a grant or we finish that design that out of those 1,200 survey results, it seemed like everyone was in agreement that something should happen there. We also, if you recall, asked a question about the boat slips, and it seemed pretty well, the surveys pretty well showed that people aren't interested in seeing the whole riverfront developed, but they seemed interested in maybe improving the area and the footprint that's there and seeing if we can maximize that space. So a lot of thoughts that even the Park Commission offered when you've done your tours is now in print. So I think you'll see us bringing this document back more on board during capital budget time, as well as when we go to actually make a final decision on some of these improvements. We'll be able to reference this into this document pretty closely. Also, we've had a lot of opportunities lately with Plover River Crossing, the Gerke Park improvements, Emerson Park improvements, Graholski Park acquisition. All of that stuff is finally somewhere where we can read it. So, and also it kind of shows that while we have a lot, we need to be strategic now when we do have opportunities. So to Liz's point, when we get an opportunity in maybe some high density areas, those are strategic. I think we should definitely explore them. But I think this will help us also a tool when we do have a lot of times the first thing that people think is let's just make it a park. We're able to look at the maps now and say, well, is this an area we want to put one? Should we expand one? Because not all parkland is created equal. as we know, sometimes, there's certain areas where we just don't want to go that route, or we don't want to maintain those properties. So really thorough document. I think it's the most thorough if you look back at the 4 or 5 other ones we have on file. I can tell you that I've read it, I think, 4 times front to back. And there's still, every time I read it, I get another thing out of it. I don't expect any commissioner to know it page for page, but I do hope to bring different components of it before the board when we're talking about major improvements. And luckily, really over the next 24 months, there's a couple big things that are going to finish, and we're going to be diving into these existing assets like Iverson, like Blue Coal, and I think that's where this document's going to be really invaluable when we're trying to go through, which route we go. Even talking about things like the shoreline erosion, we know that problem's been there. It's in print now. When we take these things to our council members and things and say, we should do some studies, we have that documentation. So kudos to their staff. They've been great to work with. As you see, we work with them a lot, but this was really, it takes a year because it is so thorough. Everybody from the staff was involved, top to bottom. And again, it's funny because a lot of it does go on the shelf. People don't read it because it's so thorough, but we definitely look at it often. So appreciate all the effort and time that both Rebecca and Ross, especially Rebecca, put into this for us. So.
That's the brains behind that one for sure. Yeah, and I think it's important to add too, Dan, that it's a flexible working document too. So as you guys look at updating, obviously we have to update every 5 years. You update your comprehensive outdoor rec plan. You have a great template and a great foundation created with this document. But as you look to update that, it's a great set of bones to start from to update as well. So,
Liz?
I read the plan online, but it was kind of a eye burner when you're trying to read it online. There was so much, and it was really really thorough. So I don't want my questions to be reflected negatively on the plan. But I did pick up on any reference to the WPA buildings that we have in the city in the parks, and was there any reference to the WPA building specifically? I don't recall.
I don't
believe we did,
so,
no.
no.
'Cause I don't know if that would.
But that might fit nicely.
In the appendices
Or
too.
general recommendations, if you want to formulate a policy.
Because I think we've been trying to preserve them as best we can, but,
Right.
they're historically significant, and I would think that they would warrant some kind of a
Those are
recognition.
generally touched on by park. So for example,
Yeah.
Iverson had, some notes on there and the
Yes.
specific,
Yeah, I saw that,
okay.
yep.
But as a whole, no, we didn't.
Okay, no, that's great, thanks. I just, like
It's a
I
good
said,
point. It's a
I
very
didn't
good
Yeah,
pick
no,
up
a lot
on
of
it.
good questions.
Yeah. We actually have some really nice buildings from that era
Yeah.
that we should be recognizing as well. Yeah.
One other thing on page 158, see, I did read it.
It's an eye burner, but you made it through.
That's awesome.
But there was a reference to, things such as, and one of the things
Yeah.
mentioned was horseback riding trails. And I didn't know if we'd want something like that in there, because is anybody going to hold us to that?
Oh, I see. No, these are quotes from the DNR, just listing
Oh,
some of
okay.
the programs that are eligible or ineligible. This is
Oh,
not
thank
specific
you.
to.
To Steven's
Okay.
point, yeah, right.
Thank you.
that. Any other
Other questions?
questions?
We've got Alder Zarazua online. Alder Zarazua, any questions from you?
I just put it in the chat, but that I would be interested in getting the document with the survey comments, if that was sent out before, I'm sorry. And then just thank you for developing this plan, and I'm so glad so many people participated in the survey. I know a lot of people tend to ignore surveys, but I know people here really love the parks, and it's just awesome to see that much participation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure, guys. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
You need a motion from us?
Not on this item.
Not on this item, so that was just for information, but we will move down to agenda item number 4, which is an approval by this board to accept the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. And there were multiple parts to this, Dan. Are we accepting this in whole, or do we need to parse out pieces?
We can accept it in whole. I just think I would, if it's okay, I would entertain, or if you want to add the comments about the WPA building and the, we had talked a little bit about the other amenities in a couple of those parks about what's the right way to phrase this? Like the historic elements, we certainly can add that to a couple parks as some statements. So if you wanted to approve the plan as written with the additional comments that were made, we can quick add that stuff before the final copy is put on the website.
Okay. So the motion would be accepting it with the comments that were proposed tonight?
Yeah, I would just say that.
As noted?
Yep, comments that were mentioned tonight as.
Okay, so I'll entertain that motion if someone's
So
willing to make.
moved.
All right, so motion by Wynn, is there a second? Gladusky? All those in favor of accepting the corp plan as presented with comments included tonight signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Forgot to let your others here so we'll get in.
I think she's the
All right, we'll assume that she's an aye. All right, motion carries, thank you. And again, thank you for the great work. It really does put a great spin on an already well-recognized asset, so we appreciate your efforts. All right, agenda item number 5, to award a second phase of the Emerson Park redevelopment project, number 2310 to Earth Inc. for an amount not to exceed $200,775. Director Kramer.
Okay, so we have more construction. We're in the construction season, and exciting project here tonight. As everyone knows, the Friends of Emerson have been working hand in hand with the city trying to develop that park, and we are at a point where the funds are in line to complete the basketball court, the cornhole goals, some of the additional sidewalk, the asphalt. We're calling it an artistic area where you can do some sidewalk chalk if you'd like to, and art, as well as the new backstop on the southeast corridor of the park, some of the tree improvements and things as well. So how this phase is set up is there'll be some parkland development money that would be going towards it that we receive when some of these developments do go in for the housing. Each unit pays a certain fee to develop new park amenities. So this is a very applicable usage of those dollars. The rest of the bid amount would be coming from the Friends of Emerson Park. So essentially following what our agreement was initially, in a very similar format of what we did with the playground when the city put some seed money towards it. So we were fortunate to receive multiple bids on this, and they were very close. Earth Inc. Incorporated out of Sherry, Wisconsin, which is just west of us here, was the low bidder. The amount that you see in your packet does include a 15% contingency, which is kind of our standard. So it's actually less than this if they stay on budget or we don't have any change orders. So staff is recommending tonight to go ahead and move forward and approve this in the amount of not to exceed $200,775, with $50,000 coming from this committee and the city for parkland development fees, and up to $150,775 coming from the Friends of Emerson. In terms of schedule on this project, if awarded tonight and at council, they will be done with this by July 15th. So it's going to be a pretty quick turnaround. And that committee, and we have the chair Gingers on that committee, and they're doing a fantastic job. They've really been working hard, and a lot of great progress. You'll see the playground finish here in the next couple of weeks. There's just some sidewalk work that's got to be done there, and this is going to be right behind it. So with that, staff recommends approval, given that breakout of the funding.
All right, so any questions or comments? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the bid as presented. Bob, is there a second? Sean? All right, we've got a motion and a second to accept the proposal as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. All right, agenda item number 6, next bid, to award the KB Willett Ice Arena Building Addition and Gerke Park Improvement Project number 22-18 to Altman Construction Company Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $2,866,500. I had to practice that number at home before. All right, Director Kramer.
Not very often that we're in the $1 million arena. So this project has been, as everyone knows, we've been working on this for, I think it's going on over 2 years already, from the first idea phase to where we are now. In 2022, quite a few of the components outside were taken care of related to the field, the video board, sound system, things of that nature. Where we're at now is the building came in over budget, if you recall. We did not award it. This bid is now within budget. It's at budget, is what I'll tell you. Basically, $4.451 million has been raised so far on this full project. That's including all of the pledges from the schools, the city's contributions, the 10-year repayments from the donors, and the annual pledges for capital from the actual school districts. Where this will put us when we award this is pretty much right at that number, just underneath it. What does that mean? If awarded tonight, it means that in order to do the last couple components, which is the entrance archways, the recladding of the press box, there'll be some additional fundraising that'll go on. Additionally, if the project comes in at budget, so not using the 5% contingency, there'll be some money there that can be used for it as well. There's also some asks that are still out, that are pending, and the good news about this type of progress on a project like this is sometimes that will spiral some more of those pledges that come through. So Tim Sherrill is still heavily involved with the project and going along with it, and still actively seeking out some additional funds with city staff. So what's before you is we did receive 4 bids, And through the process with the roof replacement and all the things that have gone on over there, we were able to modify a little bit of the scope of this project to be able to accomplish the team room addition, the remodel of the women's locker room in the basement. There's the recladding of the east side, the recladding of the south side, the entrance vestibule construction, all of the relocation of the utilities, the fiber, water, stormwater, sewer, everything basically in that front, new irrigation. That's where it came in at the $2,730,000 was the hard bid. There's a 5% contingency recommended just because of the dollar amount of this size of project, coming in at the 2.866. In the packet, you'll see that we did have 4 bids that were within $300,000 of each other, which is showing a competitive market. And we did receive some feedback that by not awarding it and going out to rebid, this is one of those rare instances where we actually saved money. Building materials came down a little bit. So where we're at as a project team, we have the funding. The comptroller has reviewed all of the documents in terms of numbers. They're suffice based on what we've got for the pledge agreements. So staff is recommending award to Altman Construction in the amount not to exceed $2,866,500. This project would begin in May and would wrap up and finish by December. It is a long construction schedule on this project.
Questions for Director Kramer?
What was the amount again?
It's $2,866,500, and that includes the 5% contingency.
Oh, okay.
Yep, off of the bid amount, which was $2,730,000. And again, almost all of that is basically pledged amounts or private dollars. The city did have some money into this when they did the seeding as well as the financing, but both projects in a row here tonight, heavily financed by private partnerships with public and private entities.
Other questions?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion? Second, no, we're going to give that one to Alder Keene. Last, a little bit. All right, we've got a motion and a second to accept the bid proposal as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. Agenda item number 7, request to serve alcoholic beverages during roller derby bouts and the dates noted in the agenda by Mid-State Roller Derby. And I'm assuming we have a representative, so if you wouldn't mind joining us at the podium, state your name and address, and we will jump into the agenda item.
Hello, everybody. My name is Amanda Heineck. I'm in the Games Oversight and Vice President for formerly known Mid-State Sisters of Skate, now Mid-State Roller Derby. We just recently rebranded to be more inclusive for our area just recently in March, and we're very excited about that. And I'm actually a resident of the Wausau area, but representing a majority of my skaters that do live in Stevens Point here. We're here to request, obviously, permission to serve alcohol during our roller derby games. This will be our second year that we've been able to get into KB Willett and use that facility for roller derby in general. Like I mentioned, there's more than 50% of our skaters live in the Stevens Point area. Last year we were successful to accommodate KB Willett with practices starting in the month of April all the way until ice was put back on. And then we were able to have 3 games there last year, providing a food truck, providing admissions, merch, and then bringing in people from all over depending on who we had played. So this year we're looking also to get into KB starting next week. We'll be practicing there 3 times a week. We're looking at having 4 games this year, once a month, one in May, June, July, and August. And we're expecting to have double headers. People coming from Madison, Illinois, Indiana, things like that from all over to play roller derby. So I'm here to, what we're looking at doing is serving local brewery beers. We work with District 1 when we do distribute, and that is another location that we take a lot of our skaters afterwards to patronize them as well. So, any questions?
Director Kramer.
I'll just add process here so everyone is familiar. So last year was a very similar request was granted. How the Park Commission and cities handled these type of requests, as a reminder, is the ordinance doesn't allow consumption or possession in Gerke Park. However, we have had past instances, not only with this group, but others, where they've come to the Park Commission and asked for ultimately an exemption for those individual dates or a date. If the Park Commission so inclined to say yes, it then goes on to general government and public policy, where they have to fill out their application to actually get the alcohol license, and then that moves on to council. So really every level of our city review is included here, but ultimately before that review can even be considered or placed on an agenda, it is Park Commission's purview first to see if you'd allow that exemption. I can tell you that based on our staff review, we've not had any sort of issues. It's been okay. They've been really responsible with it. But with that, these are things that we don't approve at the staff level. We wanted to bring here and get direction before we would consider moving it forward or approving.
Yeah, what do we get? Do they pay anything when they rent that?
They do, yep. So we have, Ann and her team actually negotiate kind of an annual contract with them for their practice time and their boats.
Okay. Yeah, I'd move to approve this item.
Got a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Carrie. All right, are there any additional questions? Just to clarify this, so you are planning an additional date this year at KB Willett as well?
That is correct.
And extending the amount of practice time?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're starting this month, and then we'll be done in August.
Great, thank you. Please.
Is there some way you could advertise these games? Because I think it might be kind of fun to go see
Sounds
one.
Yep.
But I never, unless I write the dates down now.
So we do have social media, we do have posters made, so we'll make sure to get those around. We do have them up at our local establishments around in Point. We're working on what we call a street team to make sure things are posted that way. But yes, I do welcome you to come and join into the fun of it. It's
But
a
if you
good
could get something in the newspapers, even though a
Absolutely.
lot of people don't
Yep.
subscribe to the newspapers anymore, I think that would be helpful.
I think recently we were just doing, recently did something with the Stevens Point Gazette, so you might start seeing more dates
Oh,
come
great.
across there, for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions before we call a vote? All right, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you
Thank you.
very much for coming, and good luck this season. All right, moving on to agenda item number 8. We are glad to get this report because we think that means that winter's over with, but we really invite Ann Hyla and Scott Halverson to join us to give an update on the winter season reports by their areas.
Andy, you going first, or Scott is? All right, perfect.
All right, hello everybody. For those of us that haven't met, I'm Scott Halverson, the Parks and Public Lands Superintendent. And tonight I'm just going to talk about some of the winter sports seasons that we had and some of the current projects that we're looking forward to this spring. So up there we have a couple numbers to throw at you. Just a little summary of when we started. Our goal every year is to have something available during the holiday season for the holiday break. So when the kids are on Christmas break, we're hoping to have at least sledding or tobogganing or some type of skating. So this year we snuck it in right under the wire. Shortly after Christmas, it snowed pretty good. We were able to have our full-time staff haul in some snow, groom the hills, get enough snow down on the toboggan runs to have those open. So on the 27th, we were open for business, and we had actually a little slow start, but the following day we made up. Excuse me. Made up for it. And we were open for most of the season up until March 7th. So we had a real solid season this year. Oh, excuse me. Throughout the season, we were able to haul in snow, truck in snow to keep our base really thick. So we were able to ride out a lot of the warm weather because it just didn't melt our bases. So we were open for quite a long time. We did end up being closed the weekend of February 3rd due to extreme cold, and the opposite on February 18th when it was too warm. But for the most part, we were open all the other weekends. Our toboggan rentals and concession sales added with our private parties and weekend rentals, we generated some revenue this year. It probably totals up about $6,280. I don't think those numbers are really looked at very much, but this year, because it was a solid year, we made some money, which is always a plus. One of the things that is interesting is this is our second year now with private room rentals during the weekends. We used to only have rentals available during the weeknights, but this year we had 18 rentals throughout the season, so that's $100 a pop, so it's real popular. We did have skating rinks available this year. We had our downtown rink. That was our first on the scene. 2 Gerkeys, the Iverson rink, and we got a pretty good chunk started at Emerson. So overall, I'd say the season was above average in amenities being available for people and attendance. So the next picture I have, things that we're working on in the near future. That there is Morton Park. It still has snow in it, unfortunately. Pacelli's been trying to play there for last week and this week. It's just not happening. There's snow and ice on the field yet, so it's not going to happen. Although Xenoff is available. We did some shoveling of the infield yesterday, and the rain last night cleared everything up, so we're ready to go at Xenoff. We also have a picture of Boot Colt. That too has a lot of snow in the outfield. Our next scheduled game there is going to be Monday. We got a long way to go. So, but
It'll be 60s this weekend.
we'll see. Yeah, you're right. Warm weather coming. And then the boat landing, that just became free of ice just this week. So we'll probably put the dock in next week, early next week. So other than outdoor things, we're getting our facilities ready to go for adding water, and our restrooms and concession stands for ball diamonds are being, I guess, unwinterized, getting those ready to go. And then we've got our Gerke Stadium restrooms open with water for the spring events that happen at Gerke. That's pretty much wrapping it up. If anyone has any questions, feel free.
What's going on the football field all these nights recently? Lights are on.
It's more what's not going on. I mean, at this point, that turf there's practices, Ann can tell you, lacrosse. We're gonna
Crosses every night.
We have soccer coming, we have track and field to be there every day. There's gonna be spring football with the university. So basically from here going forward until the end of the school year, you'll see somebody out there almost every night.
Again, we're not charging them for the light fees anymore.
So it depends upon the user group. So those that pledged are part of the capital campaign and are paying an annual, there's no fees for them. Those that aren't, they do have to pay a fee for rentals yet. So like there's what we would call it, a semi-pro football team. That's I think they're the Bandits. Is that the right name?
They rebranded to the Wolves.
The Wolves. So like a team like that will still pay fees because they're not part of that project, but Spash does not, or Pacelli, they don't either. The club lacrosse team is kind of a hybrid in a way. Eventually that probably becomes something different with the schools, but right now they're underneath kind of the youth lacrosse pledge. So those groups are already paying annually no matter how much use they have.
Are we having staff over there at night, or?
It depends. So for things that are like high volume, where we're opening concessions and things of that nature, we have some part-time staff, or once in a while we have to do some prep work. Other things the coaches are being issued keys for in a similar capacity we did before. Really, now it's almost a partnership because it's kind of our facility. They have access to things that they used to not. We used to have to pay attention because if they turn lights on, we charge them. Now they have access to it. So we really just give them a key, tell them what times they have to have it turned off by, and we give them the right to be able to turn it on without, checking with us.
We're not having problems or anything?
Things have been going well so far. Full disclosure, I think the biggest thing we're reviewing is the sound system. It's not a big deal right now, but it is better than it used to be. So we do have some neighbors that are interested in how loud the audio is turned up during games. So that's the biggest thing we're working through. One other thing that I was just going to mention to Scott and his team that they did a great job with is we do own the rental house on 817 2nd Street, and it'd be great if we could get everyone in there someday, but there was a complete winter remodel that was done. Quite a few team members, 2 primarily, led that underneath Scott's kind of general contracting abilities of getting different people to give us bids on stuff. But that house was in pretty rough shape. Is that being fair?
Yeah, I've got some before pictures to
Okay,
share.
yeah. Yeah, several, I think, were in that house, yep. It's night and day different, so.
So it's rented out now?
It will be very soon, once the final touches go in, but ultimately, the rent is going to go up well over $1,000 a month with the improvements. So it'll be a much, it was generating money before, but it's really gonna generate some nice revenue for the park system after. Go
Did
ahead.
we get a tour before they rent out?
Yeah, I guess anytime during the day, we could probably get somebody in there now, so if you just let us know, we can certainly bring it out, yep.
Say what?
Yeah, let us know.
Well, the cabinets are scheduled to go in this month yet. Hopefully, that'll be complete by the end of the month, and that's the last major event to happen. So we're hoping early May.
The other big remodel project was the bathrooms underneath the concession, or the Gerke home bleachers. That was done by our team too, Scott and his crew primarily. And again, those are big dollar savings for the city, and our crews are really talented to do those projects. So whenever you go in to use that restroom too, I think that's been the same for, sounds like 30, 40 years. And that was a major facelift that was done just by our team, so.
So will the outdoor renovations be done in Gerke before football, I'm assuming?
No.
No?
Not even close. Hopefully by December is the goal. So
Wasn't there water lines or something that had a?
the utility stuff will be done for sure. It's just a matter of the construction that will take longer. We'll get tours of all that set up too as it's going.
All right, great.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay. So, I was told to try to keep it short, but on review of, there's some photos in a folder there, of my season, I was really blown away. We do so much at the Willett. It's mind-boggling, and frankly, it makes me want to lay down and take a nap. But our season is 30 weeks, 7.5 months. Somehow I thought it was shorter, but this is my second season, and I'm really getting in there with a fine-tooth comb now. And I say overall, you know, the relationship building with our users is going really well, and just clearing up some, you know, miscommunications that have happened over the years, or policies that just didn't make sense, or were financially not solvent, you know, like really cleaning up what we have going on there. So in recap, this season we had our biggest change with bringing the women's hockey program, the University Women's Hockey Program, to the Willett. They took over locker rooms 3 and 4 and got some really beautiful new lockers in there, which I don't have a picture of, but that renovation will be the first thing on the docket for the new Gerke project construction that will start this spring. And so we'll see major changes there physically. As well as the women, you know, we had the men and also Spash hockey teams, and we hosted 43 regular season games. That's a lot. And 6 postseason games, and one lasted 6 hours. So that was really cool and memorable, and kudos to my staff. I have an amazing staff of 20 young people that work part-time, in addition to my 10 figure skating instructors who run our Learn to Skate program. So with a team of 30 part-time folks and Ron and Greg and myself, we make it all happen somehow, some way. And it's a 7-day-a-week thing, you know. The phone doesn't stop ringing. So kudos to Greg, who takes a lot of the after-hours responsibilities. It's just been a real treat to experience it all. So our 4th biggest user, Crystallized Figure Skating Club, they're definitely involved in the ice time as well, which is busier than ever. You know, besides their individual skater lessons, they do have 4 synchronized skating teams, including the high school Red Panther figure skating team. So it's nice to have them on the ice to balance out all that hockey. They do a couple big competitions a year where they bring in teams from all over the state, judges from across the nation, and that's a really big deal in their community. So I'm glad to host that for them as well. Our Learn to Skate program, again, increase in numbers over last season. Our winter season, we almost had 300 participants, people on waiting lists, and you know, we're opening up as many new classes as we can just to accommodate those folks, and really we're limited by ice time because we still want to provide public skating time for just recreational skating for the community, and that has also been very popular. People host birthday parties. We do throw a number of theme skates each year, so we brought back Rock Night on Ice, as well as our Skate for Good Thanksgiving, you know, donate some canned items and get in for free, as well as our Skate with Santa, which I might have had a picture in there. So those are all good fun and have been really well attended. Something else that got a lot of media attention and is a great partnership. I've been working with Alex Lena of Mid-State Independent Living Choices to bring Adaptive Skating Day to the Willett. We're going to try to expand that to be more than just one day at the end of the season, try to do that at the beginning of the season. And then him and I have grand plans to work on some grant opportunities to get sleds on site available for use, for every public skate. So it doesn't have to be a special day. You just come and enjoy the arena during public skate. He also has high hopes of getting a sled hockey team together, so we'll see what materializes in the coming years for that. We have our college hockey league and our Grandmasters hockey league that are very well attended as well. And we also culminate the whole season with our ice show. So I don't know if anybody was able to go this past weekend, but it's quite the to-do, and the setup is a week long, but it transforms the entire arena, and every performance, there's 3 of them, we have 500 plus people in attendance to come support our skaters, and it's pretty cool event there. Concessions is the business within the business. The concessions is its own beast, I guess. There's no other word for it. So the maintenance of, keeping equipment running, but also the constant ordering and I guess price adjusting, because prices are all over the place, and so making sure that we're actually running on a profit and not at a loss. Kudos go to my teammate Greg Trudell. He really heads up that program almost in its entirety. So that's been wildly successful, and we're turning some good profits. When I look at the budget from 2022, we're doing well. We actually are in the black, which is awesome. Our energy bills, however, have skyrocketed, and that budget line item was definitely surpassed. So we have $92,000 in that budget line item, and our actual for 2022 was $116. So you can, it's $24,000 plus over budget for energy. So that's something I definitely have a personal passion for and will be diving into as time allows. I'll see what we can do to get that number down. But with expenses the way they are, I'm not sure what all that can be done. What else should I talk about here?
Is everything electrical in there?
So, no, we do have gas. Our Zambonis run on electric, and the chiller is electric, so those are the 2 big ticket items. But we've improved. We've checked it out, and that could be a whole side conversation. Essentially, our loads in the winter unfortunately are directly opposite of when major production happens. So it's the cost analysis isn't quite there. But yeah. Speaking of the Zamboni, there's been some ongoing issues with our beloved Zamboni. We've had, honestly, a checkered past with this machine. It is a first-generation lithium-ion battery machine that's this season kept us on our toes because it would malfunction. The battery readout was never seemingly correct. It would go from 90% to 0 or die on the ice, and it was super stressful. And I became good friends with one of the engineers at Zamboni, as well as the battery company Green Cubes, and numerous times we would, work remotely. They'd plug right into it and try to run diagnostics and figure out what was going on. And then the week of the ice show, it really died completely, and they sent us a new battery brain, essentially, and the Zamboni had surgery on Friday before the ice show, but was up and running in time, and everything was fine, but not ideal. And so that stress and unpredictability has really taken a toll on how far we think we can push it. However, we do have good neighbors over at IceHawks that often are like, okay, if this is the time, then you can borrow our Zamboni. but we haven't had to come to that yet. So
How old is ours?
it's 3 years old. We got it in 2020. The machine itself is out of warranty, but the batteries are in warranty for 5 years. And so, the things that have been going on are definitely battery related. We're working on it. Hopefully we'll find a fix, but I don't know what the future is going to hold for that particular machine.
How old was the old one?
I don't know.
We had it for a while.
7 or
Yeah.
10? I
It
mean,
was more than that. I think it might have even been a dozen years old.
Yeah.
it was a room text, and we,
Yep.
Yeah.
One unfortunate thing about Zambonis is they're very expensive. They're a couple $100,000. So
Yeah.
So, Ann, is that a design flaw with the battery that the company's identified, or is there a use concern with the way we're what is have you
Right.
gotten any sense of what the foundational problem is with the new Zamboni?
Sure. So essentially, they think it was bad wire harnessing. So communication between the brain and the batteries was faulty, which made it read error codes and then would essentially kill it to save its life. So with the new computer brain that they put in it, it's better, but it's still not perfect. And so we sent that piece of equipment back to the battery company. They're going to do some forensics on it and see. But, when the engineer of the battery company says, well, I've never seen this before, I don't know what else to do. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that it's that way. They're working on it. Everybody's been really great at helping us because they feel for us in that, and frankly, they don't want the bad press, but our Ice Tech Ron is on all the social media groups and chats with a lot of industry folks, so we're hive-minding it as best we can.
we don't need it till what, September?
Correct.
we'll work on it way before that, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's functional. It's just
Just when we need it, it doesn't work.
it's temperamental, yeah.
For a
So.
3-year-old piece of
Yeah, for a 3-year-old, yeah, totally. But with that, other projects, as we mentioned, was the roof. That's going to be an awesome energy saver right there with more insulation, and the addition of the east vestibule on the arena also saves energy and helps us, reduce some labor on the ice in our shoulder seasons because of the condensation issues. And the Gerke project obviously is going to be super great for more room in the future because we're definitely short on storage space and locker space. And, we've seen new units go in, and we have more equipment on the way to improve our skating experience. So we have new skate aids, and we're trying to change out our fleet of rental skates. So just lots of updating, lots of delayed maintenance, finally coming to see the daylight. So the future's bright at the Willett. Sorry I went long.
Thank you. I mean, I've spent a lot of time there, and it's done professional. Your staff does.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
they do a great job, and I just wanted to add that 4 overtime game was exhausting to watch. I can't imagine what it was like to. What time did they get out of there? Like 1:30 in the morning or something?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, for us it was water and toilet paper. I was counting the rolls left. This is an emergency situation. No, they're good fun. Thank you so much.
I'll add to, obviously, we've been talking a lot of expensive numbers for the Willett with roofs and building expansion, but it truly is a bright spot. As you can see from Ann's photos that she shows, we have a couple thousand people in that building. The usage is off the charts, and I can't give Ann and her team enough credit for the rebuilding of relationships. Not that long ago, we had time that we couldn't give away in certain periods of the day. That's not the case anymore. We have people, beating the door down, and Ann and her team and Greg and Ron are facilitating, moving things around. In addition, Scott and his team sent people over to help with coverage. So there's a lot of cross training that's been happening. We keep throwing, I say more things at that division. Take more lacrosse on, take soccer on, take another team on. The women's hockey team was never there. We played a whole schedule there. They practiced there. There's a lot more work with not really more resources necessarily, and they've just continued to meet the challenge. So we have the right people in place over there. In addition, though, the team atmosphere of the whole unit in terms of parks, forestry, everybody's been kind of all hands on deck. So that's been great to see. I can tell you, if I wasn't here tomorrow, they'd keep running great. I do so little with how that actually all operates. That really goes to the credit of the folks that are on the team. So while it's been fun to work through the contract pieces, the actual day-to-day is not me. So, but it's been great. It's been a bright spot, and really it's been a bright spot for the whole department. So I think what you'll see over the next 24 months to 36 months as we finish this build out is, we're just scratching the surface. So even the off-ice things that are happening with this, the roller derby and stuff too, is all great things that we didn't have at one time.
Just curious, and I feel silly asking this question because it's probably been a long time, but how long have we not been doing summer ice? Has it been a long time?
So the floor had lots of issues pre-2019 where they couldn't do it. Basically, they used to dig the floor up and do a patch to the refrigeration system underneath it. So it's been, well, I think it's been a long time.
Several years.
I think since they built the Ice Hawks arena for sure.
Oh, okay.
So.
I don't think it's ever been a year-round facility.
No, I just remember there used to be like a small portion of time in the summertime that we had summer ice, but
It wasn't so expensive to put ice on in July.
We don't have air conditioning, so it's all floor working, and that bill would scare me.
Got it.
Well, I think we always think about the parks in the summertime. I don't know that we ever really get a chance to say thank you for the work you all do to keep this as a year-round program. So kudos to you all and your leadership and the staffs that make it happen. And it sounds like you both had fantastic years, and we appreciate it. So thank you. And by the way, come back tomorrow. I just want that on the record. But again, congratulations. They were wonderful reports. And just remind you that that's part of the reason why people enjoy the parks program so much is because 365 days a year they got something to do. And it's a credit to everybody that's part of it, so thank you. All right, director's report.
Okay, so the Zamboni was talked about, but just so you know logistics on this, we're continuing to monitor it. Really, why we talked about at the Park Commission level is, should this continue another couple seasons, because it's the only machine, and it basically grounds the whole operation, we're gonna try to work through it, but if we wouldn't, then we'll continue to talk to our fleet manager, because that is part of the equipment, or vehicle fleet. So we'll be having a conversation with them too, because if we'd have to do some sort of upgrade or changeover, that would become a capital item. So we hope that's not the case, but we'll continue to give you updates. We just want to make sure that we don't all of a sudden show up out of the blue and say, hey, the Zamboni's got an issue. We're working through it. We want you to know of it, and then we'll work with the people that actually manage our vehicle fleet to make sure they're aware too. The Piffner Pioneer Park bandshell project, I wanted to let you know that half the roof has been repaired already. The weather stopped them from doing the back side of the bandshell, but the top was all taken care of already at this point. The actual, the main part of the bandshell. What's going to happen is they're just waiting on the final stamped plan for the shoring to basically make it safe to cut the beam, and that's supposed to happen here over the next couple weeks. So I think you're gonna see, even before we hit that May busy time, we're hoping to have that, they'll be in and out of there. Once they get started, they think it's only a few weeks to get it done, but there's a pretty big build out to shore it in place before they can actually remove that main beam to do the repair. So Ellis Construction's working on that. Some progress has been made, but we hope to maybe be by next month's meeting, Bill, to tell you that we're almost done with it, so that the concert season can get going without an issue. Even if it's not done, the concerts will all go on without a hiccup. They've got a stage behind it. So Scott actually and his crew is who's managing that project with Ellis, but we just had our first pay up for the first little piece of it. There'll be more coming over the next 30 days. On the KB Willett Ice Arena, we just had our pre-construction meeting today. Ann and I are working on sending out letters to the immediate neighbors, just letting them know that because there's some of that foam board that goes on top, when they break pieces, sometimes it falls off the roof or blows out. So they'll be doing a lot of cleanup during that project, but we wanted all the neighbors to know that should something land in their yard, to get us a hold of us and we'll come take care of it. But they're gonna start that project on the 19th. It's about a 30 to 40 day build out for the roof, so they'll be kind of coming off the roof and done, and then the contractors will be rolling in to add on to the building for the team room. So construction after the 19th of April in Gerke Park probably won't stop till closer to Christmas time. So we are gonna let everyone know on the two adjoining streets. We'll have some social media posts too, but those are the immediate neighbors. We wanted them to know that set your alarm to 7, or if you don't, you're gonna hear the alarm because they're gonna be working right outside your window. So hopefully though, again, these are kind of generational projects. We'll get them done and we can kind of return it back to normal for the next number of years. We did have 2 new faces in our department. We haven't met in a few months. So Tim Krutza retired at the end of last year, our park lead worker, and Tim's replacement was hired, Benjamin Kerms, Permsey, I think how you pronounce it, so I don't pronounce it wrong. I'm sure he'll come to a meeting at some point, but he did begin his duties in the beginning part of the year, so he's got a couple months here, or just coming up on a couple months. And then additionally, Angie had left us at the end of the last year to kind of go into the career path. She wanted to be in the waste management side, so Emily Morris Larson actually joined us from the state of Utah. She moved over here with her husband, and she began, I think, just a week or so before Ben. It's pretty close. So both of them are new and hitting the ground running. So sometimes we forget how little time they've been with us because we're just rolling with so many things, but hopefully we'll get those two faces in front of the commission at some point too, just to say hi. So a couple new full-time and some new blood in the department. The last thing I wanted to let everyone know is the Plover River Crossing project. While it won't actually start construction until October 1 of 2025, we're told, there is a lot of design documents that have to happen between there because of the DOT process. So the first two things we're working on right now is the Blue Corner Butterfly Survey, as well as the, I'm going to get the raptor name wrong, the Red-Shouldered Hawk survey, which will be happening. So in order for us to move forward with finalizing the exact route, we have to do an environmental document. So we're working, hopefully, with actually some local resources through the university to do some of those survey work, and then that'll move the design forward. And our hope is to finish design in 2024, so that we can, 23 and 24, so we can get everything bid and hit the ground running in October 1 of 25. So it'll come soon, believe it or not. It seems like we've been working on this project a long time, but once that project starts, because of the way that bridge and stuff is going to be set, it's a pretty major construction down in that area. So I think, Bob, did they have you down there one day too, I heard? Yeah, so great. We even got the Park Commission involved a little bit too. So hopefully we'll get everyone a tour there as we get a little closer. Right now it's almost too wet to be in certain components of that area, but once we get closer, or even maybe potentially next winter or something, we'll try to maybe take a walk before, so you can see the before we get actually into the after when it's done. So lots happening. There's lots of other operational things, but these are kind of the big items. We'll be meeting more frequently here now, so I'll have hopefully a little shorter agenda for you next month. So that's all I have for the director's report.
All right, any questions for Director Kramer? Can we please get an update on your recent addition to your family?
Yeah, absolutely. Whitley Lorraine Kramer joined us 7 weeks ago tomorrow. So everybody's doing well. My wife is an angel, taking care of a lot of the hard work. But yeah, it's been great. It's been fun. So that's future park employees, what I say. So.
So any other questions on the director report? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. John, is there a second? Sure. Took you long enough. Congratulations, Gludowski. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.